Okay, you ready, sir? The City of Southport Board of Aldermen, May 12th, 2022 meeting is now called to order. I want to welcome those of you who are here and those who are watching at home. Thank you, Board, for being here. Thank you, City employees, for your attendance as well. I want to welcome the City Attorney for your second meeting. Thank you. Our invocation tonight will be given by Pastor Devin Varnum, Southport Baptist Church. It's an honor to have him here tonight because Southport Baptist Church is celebrating their 150th anniversary this Sunday. So thank you, Pastor Varnum, for being here. Be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. Our gracious Father, as we come to you today, God, we thank you for all that you're doing in our town. We thank you for all that you're doing in Southport. God, we thank you for our aldermen. We thank you for our mayor. God, we thank you for our police officers and our firefighters and those who work for the town that make everything happen day to day. God, we pray that you would bless our leaders here tonight, and as you bless our leaders, may they bless our town. God, we know that those that are appointed by you and that you guide them. So may you guide them and lead them, God, in the way that you would have us to go. God, in Jesus' name, in your name only, we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Varnum. Item D, public comment. Madam Clerk.
The first speaker is Chris Clark.
Chris, good to see you. Make sure your microphone is on.
Good evening. My name is Chris Clark. My wife and I are Southport residents. I live at 612 West Brown Street. In talking with many individuals, there appears to be interest in exploring options to preserve the land that is proposed for development as Project Indigo. Just to get a sense of this interest, an informal survey was posted recently on a Facebook site. Jim and Sharon Lightbourne put the survey together and are tracking the results. The survey asked respondents to identify as resident or non-resident of Southport and had two simple yes or no questions. Votes are still coming in and will continue to be counted, but as of a couple days ago, there were over 300 respondents. About 50 of those respondents made comments but did not explicitly vote, so those were not included in this tabulation. Of those 50 comments, the great majority expressed concerns about the development. Of the remaining 259 votes, 179 were residents of Southport and 80 were non-residents. First question, do you favor exploring the option of ensuring that the property will not be developed now or in the future? 98% of the residents responded yes, and 98% also for non-residents responded yes. Second question, would you consider providing financial or other support to help ensure the property will not be developed now or in the future? 87% of the residents responded yes, and 81% of the non-residents responded yes. The survey has no statistical significance since the audience was Facebook users self-responding if they felt like doing so. However, it does indicate interest in preserving the land as well as continued concerns about the development. A loose-knit group is forming with individuals contacting various land trust foundations and conservation organizations for advice and possible funding support. The discussions so far have been very helpful and encouraging. After this initial fact-finding effort, a more formal organization may be formed. raising the funds necessary to conserve the land would certainly be a monumental challenge. And of course, the landowners would have to agree as well. There does, however, appear to be sufficient public interest to explore the option and of ensuring that the property is not developed now or in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Madam Clerk?
Ms. Shirley Sullivan.
Welcome, Ms. Sullivan.
Having just recently looked into our city of Southport, how it runs, and what it takes to support our beautiful city, I do appreciate all that you do for Southport. I am on information overload because I have looked up a lot of stuff since the April 4th town hall. I am very concerned with the impact of Indigo Phase 2 to our city. I have not read all of the information. I have a lot more reading to do. Our population will almost double with just this development. While we have subcommittees to cover the infrastructure concerns, I'm not hearing a word about the total financial impact. I'm hearing about $750 million in increased property value that this brings, which when you look at the rate of property tax, that's about $2 million a year, but that's before it's built out. That's before the 10-cent proposed increase on property taxes, followed by possibly a 25% increase on the reassessment that's coming up in January. At any time of the day, I have to circle the blocks in downtown Southport to find a parking spot, and it's not even tourist season. A new substation would cost approximately $20 million, I've heard. How are we going to pay for that? Has that been addressed? After watching most of the proposed budget meetings for 2 days, I appreciate all that goes into the planning from each department. I do see that it is quite a puzzle. Proposed revenues for next year are approximately $28 million with proposed costs at $29 million. I might have that reversed, I don't know. Again, we have the proposed tax increase, which is 10 cents per $100, but that's a 25% increase in just our Southport taxes. Will there be an increase from Dosher Hospital tax, the Southport Fire Department, and Brunswick County? These are the other items that make up our property tax bill. I am aware that like everyone else, that we are going to be at a more difficult place of recruiting people to work in our city, especially when they can't afford to live here. I also believe we are going to overprice housing for a lot of our current demographics, including our senior citizens. And senior citizens aren't just those over 65 years old. Communications with the residents could be improved. We should have another town hall meeting after the first round of planning board subcommittee meetings are finished. And don't invite the developers. Listen to the residents of Southport. I have no doubt this rezoning project has been in the works for a while. The planning board was given 90 days to make the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. June 16th is quickly approaching. I believe in growth, but managed growth would be the best decision.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Madam Clerk?
Debbie Barnes.
Welcome, Ms. Barnes.
Debbie Barnes. I'm on 425 West Street. I want to do something just a little different. I'm here to thank you. I want to thank you for the paving that just took place on House Street. And in my opinion, and I'm just one person, but in my opinion, it went really good. Sure, there might have been some inconveniences here and there, but it went really good, so thank you. The other thing that's going really well, and it's good to see, is the Yacht Basin. The other docks have been torn down, and they're starting to put the others up. And McPherson Marine has been doing an outstanding job, just like they did last time. They are so respectful of ensuring that traffic can get by with all of the equipment and the debris they have to deal with. So I think they're doing a great job. And then last, I'd like to say, come on with the dog park. I know it's in your newsletter. It's supposed to be this month. I think you get started on it, but I'm looking forward to it. And so once again, thank you. Thank the police department, the fire department, our nurses, EMS, the military, just it takes everyone to make this place run. And thank you for everything you do as alderman.
Thank you. We always appreciate that. Madam Clerk,
There's no one else, sir.
is there anyone else here that would like to speak that did not sign up? Okay, great. Thank you. Item E will be approval of the agenda, and we have a variety of items on the agenda. You see there are 8 items, and they include contract for auditing services. We have a pest management plan. This is mosquito control, ABC board reappointment. Our street sweeper is being looked at again. Tree preservation ordinance amendment, a memorandum of understanding with Up Your Arts, the Seabiscuit Wildlife Shelter donation, and the consideration of a street name change. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. There was a tie, so Mayor Pro Tem and Alderman Allen. Is there a second? And Alderman Allen was second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Thank you. Now I'll read the ethics statement. We do have one item on the agenda that is one of our board members is part of that organization, so I'm sure he will speak after I read the statement. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I am on the board of directors for Up Your Arts, and Bonnie's going to be presenting the MOU, so I'll steer clear of the conversation and the vote.
Thank you, Alderman Carroll. Yes, Reverend Alderman Davis.
I hoped to be allowed to recuse myself on the street name change on several bases, perception of possible conflict of interest, but the city attorney advises me I don't have basis to do that. So I just wanted to put that on the record that I wanted to.
I can't find one yet.
Yeah. Unless you have financial interest in sales of To Kill a Mockingbird or something like that, or the production of street signs or green and white paint or anything like that. None of us probably have a conflict there, but thank you for the comment. All right. So item F, approval of the consent agenda. And on our consent agenda, we have the minutes of the special town hall meeting from April 4th, minutes from the special streetlight policy workshop on April 6th, minutes from the regular Board of Aldermen meeting on April 14th. And also, we have the American Rescue Plan Act 2021 resolution and ordinance, and I would like to just briefly review that with you. This resolution is for American Rescue Plan money. And you can only use that money for certain things. And one of the things you can use it for is for water and sewer infrastructure. So our resolution states that we would like to use this money for water and sewer infrastructure, and it will go into our water and sewer fund. You can't use it to put in, for example, you couldn't put it in the pension plan. city manager and I cannot buy a new vehicle for the city, things like that. So it has limited uses. So I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the resolution for the American Rescue Plan. Motion by Alderman Lombardi. Is there a second? Second by Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item G, special recognition. We have 6 proclamations. I'll not read all of them, but I would like to touch on each one of them, and I will read several of them. National Hurricane Preparedness Week was May 1st through 7th, and we included this proclamation to let our citizens know that we certainly are aware of hurricanes in Southport, and we certainly will be prepared should the need arise. From Hazel to Isaias, Southport has been affected, so we will be ready. The next one is City of Southport proclaiming support of National Nurses Week, and that is May 6th through 12th. And we support our nurses. We love our nurses. They are, the first person you see, at whether a clinic or an ER, is your nurse. And they are one of the most important healthcare workers and the largest group of healthcare workers. And I would just like to read briefly about the nurses from Dozier Memorial Hospital. They follow in the footsteps of registered nurses in the old Dozier Hospital who exemplified excellence in nursing and were well known to the citizens of Southport. Marie Brown, RN, Director of Nursing for many years, and set the standard for nursing directors. Vera Howard, RN, a nurse for many years and Director of Nursing from 1968 until retirement in 1971. And Julia Daniel, RN, head nurse in the emergency department for many years and known as Miss Julia to Southport natives. So in Southport, we support our nurses here and all over the nation and the world. City of Southport proclamation in support of National Police Week, May 11th through 17th, 2022. Whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the City of Southport's Police Department. And whereas law enforcement officers routinely put their health and safety on the line to help others. Whereas since the first recorded law enforcement death in 1786, almost 22,000 law enforcement officers have been killed in the line of duty. And whereas an average of 245 law enforcement officers are killed each year in the line of duty, and whereas in 2021, the number of law enforcement deaths increased to 458, and whereas North Carolina experienced 7 law enforcement deaths in 2021, and whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas May 15th, 2022 is Peace Officers Memorial Day, and whereas the Southport Police Department continues a tradition of excellence and integrity in law enforcement and embodies neighborly, approachable policing, and whereas the Southport Police Department faces an influx of thousands of tourists 4 months out of the year, they accept the challenge with a gracious determination and ready presence to keep our citizens and our city safe, whether on patrol, on bicycles, or walking our streets. And now, therefore, let it be resolved that the City of Southport formally designates May 11 through 17, 2022 as National Police Week in Southport, NC, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and across the nation. Signed this 12th day of May, 2022. Joseph E. Hayden, MD, Mayor. Chief. and they are on the street. I met Harrison Hart and Ransom Riley on Bay Street a couple of days ago. In fact, we're walking back from our workshop here, so it was great to see them out. Our next proclamation, again, Southport supports the Red Cross, and we salute their 141st anniversary. And what I'd like to say that the Red Cross is going to be here with our fire department, the EMS division, on May 23rd at the substation for a blood drive. So let's all of us that are able to step out. Chief is at the substation on Nash Street. Starts at 10:30, 10 o'clock. I'll get there at 10:30. The rest of you get there at 10. And so we salute the Red Cross, and we salute the work that they do in terms of blood drives. City of Southport, of course, supports National Safe Boating Week. I mean, we see boats out on our river every day and out in the ocean. So we want to make sure that these captains on these boats and those that own boats have gone through the course and they understand the Coast Guard rules and regulations and that type of thing. We want everyone to stay safe on the water. Our last proclamation is one that we love reading every year. This is the City of Southport Proclamation in appreciation of the military. Whereas May is designated as National Military Appreciation Month and a time to remember and appreciate the men and women who have and are currently serving the United States Armed Forces. And whereas our military continues to play a vital role in the global war on terrorism and disaster relief missions to secure our freedoms, and whereas the sacrifices made by these individuals have helped to preserve the liberties that have enriched this nation. Whereas community members, businesses, military bases, and other organizations are encouraged to recognize military members and their loved ones with special recognition during the month of May. And whereas between 2006 and 2020, approximately 17,700 active duty military personnel were killed while serving their country, proving that freedom is not free. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Joseph E. Hatem, do hereby proclaim May 2020 as Military Appreciation Month and officially recognize the many sacrifices made by our veterans, service members, wounded warriors, their families, and their survivors. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Southport, North Carolina, to be affixed on the 12th day of May, 2022. If you're a veteran, please stand. Mr. Simon, thank you. Mr. Wilson, Harley, Tom, Rick, Tom. Thank you for your service. And as we all know, a special remembrance on May 30th, Memorial Day. Agenda item H1, contract for auditing services. And this is something that is required by law. It's done every year, fiscal year ending 6/30/22, and it's due 10/31/22. And you have the information in your in the packet, and it's online. And one of the things that I was reading that it's concerning the audit, it uses the generally accepted auditing standards, or GAAS, or GAS. So I was telling the city manager, I know he's going to have heartburn along with Melanie during this period of time, so well, I wish them well, because it is a daunting task. But anyway, I will call on our finance officer, Melanie Traxler, to give us further explanation.
Well, good afternoon. And thank you, Mayor, for that, because I think you just hit the nail on the head. And so this contract is a renewal of our auditors for the last 3 years. They've served us very well. The price is the same as it has been in the past, $39,000 for our audit and $3,500 for writing the actual report. So I'm here today to ask you to approve this this audit contract. And next year we will go out to bid for it because we'll be required to.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Trexler or about the audit? Okay, thank you, Ms. Trexler. Any further discussion on this? Anyone would like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the audit contract for the next year's audit.
Is there a second? Okay, so there's a motion by Alderman Allen, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller. In the motion is we will continue under contract with Thomas Price Scott Adams and Company to do our yearly audit. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Trexler. I'll have the Zantac ready for you when it starts up. Next item on our agenda is item H2, and this is the Integrated Pest Management Plan. And this could be a euphemism for any number of things, but this relates to mosquito control. It's a public health issue. We remember reading about the yellow fever outbreak in 1862 from the blockade runner Kate. Mosquitoes can be a nuisance, but they also have a disease-carrying capability. So the city's goal is to be preventative, proactive. We'll work with Brunswick County Mosquito Control. The Board of Aldermen heard an excellent talk from them at our workshop. We want to educate people about mosquito control and what they can do to mitigate. It's not just spraying adulticide. There are other things that can be done, removing standing water, looking at the ponds, see if there are minnows in there, are they larvae, using larvicides. We do surveillance, looking at mosquito counts and that type thing. We want to use the least toxic, low volume spray as possible. We'll be strategic in when we spray and where, and use the least toxic chemicals possible, avoiding beehives and pollinator gardens and that type thing. So for further details and further information on this, I call on David Kelly from Public Services, who runs our mosquito control program. So thank you, Mr. Kelly.
How's it going? The mayor pretty much did my first page. Thank you, Mayor. No, the IPM is pretty much to try to use less toxic chemicals in the environment. The big thing is surveillance. So what that means is if somebody calls, like say, Indigo calls, we go over there and see the active threshold is 7 a minute, so I actually get out the truck, count till a minute, see how many lands on me. And if it's more than 7, then I'm allowed to spray. That's our threshold. We look for like urban flower pots, trees, trash on the side of the road, tires, anything that can hold water. It could be a future home to a mosquito. The second big thing would be mapping, and Jeff Brown with the county is actually going to help me try to map the city to where we can do like hot spots and non-target areas like beehives and pollinator garden and so on and so forth. Then, did I drop a page? Sorry. Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. So the city of Southport, as of right now, we might not have all the resources like the county does to properly do the IPM, but as we all know, we always try to do our best in the public services and everything, and we do what we have to do. The active threshold is 7, like I said, and with larvicides, the larva, so I'm gonna use indigo for another example, like the ditches. If I go over there with a dip stick, that's what we call it, you look for larva. And usually when you see larva, there's no threshold. So if I see 2, 3, 4, then you can actually put in a larvicide in the ditch, and that will kill it. Now, if it goes to the next stage of mosquito, it's just called a pupa, then you'd have to use like an oil base. And pretty much you would go to the ditch, you spray it in the ditch, and the oil goes to the top of the surface, and then they can't go up and breathe. And that's how you get rid of the pupa. Then after that, you would have to make sure you're ready to spray, because that's kind of the next go, is to get the truck out and try to knock them out. The next thing is the physical control. That's pretty much just going by, making sure the ditches aren't clogged. If there's like debris in the woods, in the parks, clean it up. Just anything that a mosquito can't make a home out of. And you're not going to get everything. The next thing is the biological control. There's really nothing down here we can technically do besides the mosquito fish. And in the packet, Dory helped me out a lot on this, so did Tom Stanley and Jeff. You can actually buy the mosquito fish and put them in the ponds. The only thing is the city don't technically own the ponds in Southport, and there's 16, so you would have to call the homeowners association or get approval from them to put the actual mosquito fish in. And another thing, you put fish in a pond, a bigger fish will eat the small fish. It's the nature of it. Let's see. And then the monitoring, it's pretty much so if somebody calls, we put it in a log, and then at the end of the year, we'll actually tally up the calls. So if like Miss Moss, Heather, you called 5 times, we'll put it there. And eventually we'll get patterns throughout the year and years to where maybe come June, July, this is going to be a hot spot, or this over here is going to be a hot spot. Get ready to get the larvicide out or adulticide and try to knock it out before it actually becomes a problem. Pretty much that's about it. I don't know what else there is. You just try to find where they're at, do your best to get rid of them. You're never going to get rid of all of them. So that's pretty much it.
Do you feel like you'll have the resources to do an adequate job and that type thing?
The only thing, like I said at the budget retreat, it's just me. So to do like the larva counts and stuff like that, it takes time, because you got to go ditch to ditch, standing water, anywhere you think a mosquito is going to be at and do. So to do that, then do what I have to do here on a regular basis, there's kind of time but not time. But if we could like cross-train another employee, or maybe next year try to get one, I don't know, and then that would kind of move forward to trying to prevent the actual spraying.
This is something that we looked at our budget workshop, and we're hoping to have employees that will be there to help you with this, because it's an important issue. We want to keep our citizens not only free from nuisance, but free from disease, and do it as safely as possible. So thank you. Any questions for Mr. Kelly?
Mr. Kelly, I saw you out doing your job the other day. You had your little dip thing going into the ditches, and I applauded you for that. we talked briefly about the one paragraph that you wrote in this public document. I think the mayor's addressed most of that. I think you heard during the workshop from all of us that we're committed to making sure that there's enough man-hours committed to this, that there's potentially a backup person. We have all the equipment, and there's timely purchases of the abatement material and all the training that you need, because this is a big topic in this city, and it's, as you all know from your examinations the other day, they're out and about already. So thank you very much for your work.
Welcome.
David, I have just a couple questions. One, is there an online way that citizens make a complaint? What is that process?
So I believe they call it City Hall, and then they make like kind of like a work order. They send it over to Jackie, and then they'll say so-and-so at so-and-so called for mosquitoes, and then I put it in my logbook. I'll go over there and see. Usually, like if 1 or 2 people call, like I kind of let it go. Like if we start getting like 3, 4, 5 calls, like in the same area, I'll try to go out there and see what the problem is and how to solve it.
The reason I'm asking is one of the things that when we were talking about it back in February in the workshops, I rode around to all the different subdivisions and looked at everybody's stormwater ponds and everything, and particularly I think may be challenging is behind Indigo Townhomes. The I don't know if you call it a bog or if you call it a Carolina Bay or what, but there were ducks out there swimming in it, and it's like a swamp. And so one of my questions is, I know you're trying to be proactive. It would seem to me that you could make a fair assumption that that's going to be a mosquito problem, you know, every year. So is there a way to go ahead sort of and preemptively use the pellets that you're going to be using and all of that?
Yes, we can, and it's right behind the villas, Indigo Villas. It stays wet pretty. I was actually, when Mr. Alt saw me, that was the first place I went to. It's actually kind of dry, usually, because it's usually like probably 10, 15 feet up where it is now. Clark is a manufacturer, and the county actually uses all Clerk products. And they make a tablet called a T30 tablet. It's like the size of a quarter. You can actually put it in water, and it's good for 100 square feet, and it works for 30 days. So if the water dries up, it stops working. So as soon as it gets wet again, it starts working. So it they're a little expensive, but for 30 days and the technology of it, it actually works pretty good.
Is your budget set for you to be able to have that tool?
Me and Tom talked about it. We're put it in for next year's budget because as of last year, we really didn't have a mosquito program. We kind of put it on the back burner. So this year I wasn't pushing to get it because I didn't want to get it, then it just sit. So yeah, it's something we could get. Yes, ma'am.
And then another question I had, I know that people who are beekeepers and those pollinator gardens, that sort of thing, are able to opt out. I think citizens in general are able to opt out of spraying, right?
With the beehives, Randy, when I first got on the program, we kind of got on the city website. So if you have a beehive within the city limits, you're supposed to get up with Randy, and then he forwards it to me, and I put it in the logbook. And usually when I spray, or every time I spray, I would always call the beehive owner and tell him, hey, I'm in the area tonight, giving you a warning, and kind of give them the heads up to know that like we actually do care for the bees. And another reason why we spray at night is the bees actually, that's the time they go back to the hive, so they're less likelihood to get exposed to the chemical.
I guess what I'm asking too is can citizens opt out of being, say, spraying at their house when you go and...
Technically they could. The only problem I see is, say, I'll use you an example. Say you don't, then that means your neighbor to your right, left, behind you, in front of you, they will not get sprayed.
So could we opt out as a block? The only reason I'm asking this is it occurred to me that if we had something, and you don't have to answer, David, but if we had something like that, then we could also have individuals, if they were opting out of spraying, then also sign initial on that same form that they're aware that they're responsible for keeping standing water emptied at their house. All the public information could then be disseminated with it.
At the time, I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no. We might have to discuss it like with the county, because really I kind of follow the county's footsteps. They're a really big help to me. And if Jeff says if there's a no call list, if they get on it, it's going to be pretty hard to get off of it.
Mr. Kelly, did I hear you correctly that you're waiting for July 1st before we can order anything because we don't have anything now?
Yes, sir, and the reason why is last year, because Southport, since I've been spraying since 2019, we've always been like on the defense. We've always just sprayed. No larvicide, no pellets, no tablets. The only thing we've done is as soon as we get the threshold, we spray. And not knowing what the program's going to do this year, I didn't want to spend the money and have it just sit in our chemical room or pesticide room and not get used.
What's the turnaround if you were given the money tomorrow? How quickly could you get the pellets and other stuff in, do you think?
As soon as I call and make sure that they have them in a couple of days when they ship them.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Very good presentation. This is a challenge all over the county, and we appreciate the county's help with this, and as we get this program going. So you have this draft of the Integrated Pest Management Plan. I'll entertain a motion. Yeah, motion to adopt the integrated plan. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
And I'll second it.
Second by Alderman Allen. Any further discussion on the mosquito control plan?
Yeah.
I've had a lot to say about this last year, and over the course of the last year. First thing, good effort by Public Works and David to try to come up with the least harmful and most effective program. I do recognize the health problems that mosquitoes can cause. I also recognize that if we don't do this, people will call a private company that will come and spray possibly very toxic stuff. But even so, recognizing that it is still toxic, and my knowledge personally that bees do travel 5 miles for pollinating, and so it's just not enough to say, okay, we're not going to spray the hives. They're going to go somewhere else where there has been spraying and bring it back to the hive. I also just frankly question our commitment to something that is not 100% effective and something that is this harmful to the environment. So I think you can probably guess that my vote's going to be no.
Anyone else?
I would just like to, and I know we're not here on a budgetary thing, but I would like to encourage the city manager to go ahead and find the funds to help David get proactively, because the larvicides and the pubicide, all that before they're in the air is definitely the least caustic to butterflies and bees, and I don't know about y'all, but my neighbor across the street has a field of clover in her yard, and I've seen one mason bee in all this time. So it's dramatic what we're dealing with here. So I would ask that, one, that David be given every tool he needs to be proactive, and the very last thing we ever want to do is spray. That give him everything he needs to do everything before that becomes an issue, including any kind of manpower.
Yeah, spraying is last resort, absolutely. And that's why I was asking, does he have the resources that he needs? And if he doesn't, then the sooner the better, and to get this program going and whatever manpower he needs and that type thing. Absolutely.
We're not waiting until July. That's what I hope.
Hi. I want to add two comments. I asked David a few weeks ago, actually it's been a few months, while we were trying to write the budget and get things together, to get me a cost of all the pellets and such. And he did. And I told him not to pull all the guns out of his pocket, but proactively, in hopes that the board would approve some type of mosquito program, we did order the pellets for the ponds, and David knows what to do, and actually have it. And also, everything we use, although nothing is 100% safe, it is approved by the EPA. You know, they're not just out there hastily throwing out, poisons. Everything is approved by the EPA. But we do have the stuff in hopes that you guys would allow us to start doing this program. I did just want to throw that out there. So we had high hopes for you guys, just like you do for us. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Any further discussion, any further questions? Okay. All in favor of the motion to adopt the mosquito control plan, also known as the Integrated Pest Management Plan? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The vote was 5-1. All right, thank you. Item H3 is the ABC Board reappointment, and everyone has seen the letter from Todd Dunn. He's the general manager of the Southport ABC store, and he's recommended that Mr. William Davis continue to serve. Mr. Davis wants to continue to serve, and it's usually customary to reappoint volunteers that want to continue to be on their board. So I will entertain a motion in terms of reappointment of Mr. Davis. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yeah.
Is there a second?
No. No. Okay.
Yeah. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Lombardi. Any discussion?
Yes. All right. Dory, do you know if we received any applications?
I've received at least 2 others that I forwarded to Todd.
Okay. Were those people interviewed?
I haven't set up any interviews, though.
Okay. What's going on?
Is the mic still on?
I don't think it's a good idea for us to, I'd like to understand what this interview process looked like before we make this decision. I do know at least one of the other candidates extremely qualified, and we continue to reappoint people to positions. Yes, they're qualified, but I'd like people to continue to have the opportunity to volunteer, and I don't want to just say no because somebody wants to continue to sit on a board. So I am opposed to this simply because I'd like to understand what the process was, and make sure that it was properly done.
And I'd have to support you in that, because all of us on this board, while we may want to stay here, we have to go before the citizens each time and get reelected. And the system of just because you're on it doesn't mean that you're the best qualified this time around. And we have to break out of this pattern of once you get on it, you're on it for life. we have to do a better job of looking at the citizens that are here, who's applying. There has to be a legitimate interview process with neutral people who are going to assess everybody who's coming before the whatever group, whatever subcommittee we're looking at.
We have a motion on the floor, right? Okay.
Did Mr.
A
Davis
motion
reply?
and a
Did
second.
we receive an application from Mr. Davis?
Don't believe so. I believe that I reached out to Todd because we realized the appointment was expiring, and he replied with that letter he sent that I included in the packet.
I can withdraw my motion, and we can table this till we can get the interviews done, or that the process, and maybe bring it back for the next, so that we get the applications like we normally do.
Yeah, I would say that we should also appoint Mr. Dunn and perhaps one or two of us board members to complete those applications.
Is someone is the liaison? Who's the, I
I
thought,
don't think there's currently a liaison.
It was Mr. Spencer.
oh, okay.
So if the motion is withdrawn, we will set up a interview committee, and we'll interview all three candidates. We'll get their applications, and once the interviews are done in a timely manner, and then we will put it on the agenda when it's been, posted and people have applied and that type of thing. So we'll table this for now. All right, thank you. Good
Mr. Mayor,
discussion.
one
Now,
more thing.
do we need a motion to table it?
Be happy to take one.
Norwood, it's okay. Do we need a motion to table it? Is that a motion, require a motion? Okay. I make a motion to table this pending interviews, et cetera.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Carroll to table this appointment until interviews are made. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, are you at the next meeting, are you going to appoint someone to that, to act as a liaison?
We'll appoint a interview committee, yes.
Thank
So
you.
I want to give everyone plenty of time to apply, so we should be able to do this at the July meeting. That gives everyone plenty of time to apply, plenty of time for interviews and that type thing. All right, thank you. This is going to be one of our favorite ones, the item H4. And this was an enjoyable one for me because I really learned a lot. It's the continued discussion on the purchase of a street sweeper. And really, we didn't study street sweepers in medical school, so this was, I enjoyed it. In April, the board approved the purchase of the Temco 600 street sweeper as recommended by city staff. There was board interest in researching other options, in particular the electrically operated equipment. The Temco 600 uses it's a regenerative air sweeper technology. It's a public health issue because these street sweepers, they improve aesthetics, they improve the stormwater runoff quality, improve the air quality, they main stormwater systems, and they also is a reduction of hazards to automobiles, cyclists, and pedestrians. It does not recycle pollutants into the air when the suction on getting up this material. And I don't know if any of you watched the video online, but it was pretty impressive how it works and that type thing. I did call the company because I didn't know what Timco stands for. It's kind of sweet. It's a family-owned business, and it's the the young manufacturing company, Timco, founded in the 1960s. In the online and in your on the packet online, you see the one that uses gas powered, but you also have the Elgin hybrid broom bear, a very good looking equipment there, and street sweeper, and it is approximately $700,000 in cost. It has a diesel and powered front end and electric powered rear end, and then so that's compared to the $271,000 for the Timco 600. So there are these options, and I'll call on Mr. Stanley of Public Services to give us his thoughts and more details and that type thing.
Good evening. I feel like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. So third time's a charm. So sometimes. So in April, like the mayor said, I presented a street sweeper along with the representative from Amick Equipment who sells to Timco. Street sweepers, and it was approved that night, but there was some apprehension, understandably. So I'm not quite sure what all the apprehensions were about, but I have a few other options. I included, or Dory actually included, the options that I found in your board packet. Honestly, those options aren't really good options. I did that because that's what's there. If the city doesn't want to purchase a street sweeper, be it hybrid, electric, or diesel powered, that is what we result to. We result to more man hours, louder equipment, and less emissions friendly equipment. Those being two-stroke or two-cycle sweep street blowers, leaf blowers, diesel backhoes, dump trucks, and even four-stroke or four-cycle leaf vacuums really aren't feasible options. And my favorite option, which you guys have a picture of, is my guys and myself out there last Friday actually physically sweeping a section of Nash Street for an hour. Six guys, myself included, for an hour for half a block, and that only picked up the leaves. So those are definitely options I will pursue if you guys would like me to. But let's talk about diesel power sweepers, the Timco 600 that staff recommends, or hybrid or electric street sweepers. Obviously, the one proposed that was approved the last board meeting, the Timco 600, it's the same sweeper we have now, just 21 years newer. And we chose this one because of the longevity we had, with our current Timco 600, and service being very close by, manufacturer being close, or representatives being close by. So diesel is louder. Okay, I get that. It's loud for people first thing in the morning. It's not as environmentally friendly as electric. Not sure how environmentally short-term electric is when we're digging up all the fuels and all the stuff from the ground to get the fuel for the batteries, but that's another discussion. But the electric sweeper, street sweeper technology has only been around for about a year and a half. Not quite sure how, I've researched, I've made phone calls, I've called Jetvac, I've called a few other companies, I've called Elgin. Yes, there's street sweepers out there. Not a lot of small municipalities are getting the electric street sweepers. The maintenance cost isn't extreme for street sweepers. There's still a lot of moving parts. You just don't have the diesel engine to operate it. So there is not oil changes. There's not internal combustion, and obviously a lot less emissions, short term. They both provide excellent sweeping services. The regenerative air, which Southport likes to use, actually blows air on the streets to break up the particles, break up the dust to get it up into the asphalt. That's the diesel-powered street sweeper. The electric only has mechanical. So at this point, about another year and a half, Global is working on a regenerative air street sweeper. And the mechanical just is good for like places where you're on the beach, where you have a lot of beach sand, and there's a lot of heavy sand residue or heavy sand on the streets. It actually physically breaks that up. Obviously, you don't want to blow the heavy sand because it will just blow, freely. The Temco 600 that we were going to purchase, last time we spoke about it, they were holding a chassis, increase. Well, we've waited, and the blue light special has been turned off. So the previous, last board meetings, $271,200 have seen a $4,500 cost increase above, what it was going to be because, we didn't make the purchase then. So now the cost of that is $275,700. Now the base price for the electric street sweeper, the Global, I'm just talking about one speaker. Obviously, I hadn't sent out RFPs or anything for electrical sweeper, is based at $500,000. Yes, mechanical, maintenance cost is cheaper, right now for electrical, but over the span of a lifetime, I'm not sure because electrical street sweepers haven't been out there, full-size electrical sweepers haven't been out there a long time. So let's dissect this $500,000 electrical street sweeper and the $275,000. I'm just going to say $275 because it's easy. Let's dissect that for a second. Maintenance cost. Not sure the maintenance cost right now of the electric street sweeper. I even asked for battery costs. Couldn't get a battery cost. I asked my garage supervisor, the last year we used our 20-year-old street sweeper, what the maintenance cost was. With two oil changes, two full services, and 4 sets of brooms for the year of 2020, it was just under $1,700 for maintenance costs. Okay, so we have a $500,000 electric sweeper, $275,000 street sweeper or diesel sweeper. That's initial cost right now. We could operate at that average, at that $1,700 cost. We could operate the diesel-powered street sweeper 132 years before we made it to the $500,000 initial cost of the electric sweeper. Obviously, it's not going to last 131 years, but that's the how long in maintenance we would have to go to equal the $500,000 electric street sweeper. And the, of course, the hybrid, which has a diesel chassis, but full electric sweeper, is starting at $700,000. And again, that's just one vendor. There's options. I just trying to climb out the rabbit hole and really wanting to know what the pleasure of the board is. I could probably talk for another hour on this, different options, different scenarios, what's better. Both of them are going to clean the air. Both of them are going to keep the air cleaner, because we can get the pollutants off the ground, that aspect. They'll both reduce the flood hazards because we'll get the debris and leaves out the gutters. Make streets travel safer, pedestrian travel safer. And that maintenance cost did not include fuel, but we drive it 3 miles a week. So, I'm sure fuel costs, I wasn't able to get that immediately. That does play a factor, but I'm really wanting to know, what other direction the board would like me to go, what other information you'd like me to get, how far deeper would you like me to dig?
I've got a couple of questions. And thank you for exploring these other options. I appreciate that very much. I'm curious about whether there's any possibility that we could share a sweeper with another municipality. The one that comes to my mind would be Leland. Have we explored this at all?
I may be misspeaking, but I do believe that Mr. Hargrove did explore that option.
I did reach out to the city manager of Leland and discuss a possibility of partnering on the purchase of a street sweeper. At this point in time, they are not looking at the Timco street sweeper to do that work. They're looking at something that they would attach to the back of a backhoe, but they couldn't explain exactly what they were talking about to me. So I don't think they're really decided on what they're going to do at this point.
What that thing is that they're talking about?
As much research as I've done the past couple of weeks or a month on, I've seen nothing that would attach to a back. The only attachments I've seen is what you have, in front of you. And
I'm
I have
curious
searched
as whether that might be an option for us.
I could certainly try and reach out and find, but again, is it noise you're concerned with? I mean, I really need
Price
to know
is
the
going to
direction.
go up another $4,500 if we keep procrastinating.
The blue light special has been turned off, absolutely. But, I need to know, Ms. Lewis, I will certainly look deeper, but give me what you're trying to get me away from. Is it noise? Is it emission? Let me know what you're trying to get away from so I have a little bit more guidance on what to look for. Because I can't imagine anything that's attached to the back of a backhoe is going to be any cheaper or any less green than what, we've already got.
It's not the noise that's my issue. My issue is the environmental fact of we would be stuck with this gas guzzler for at least 20 years. So in 2042, we would still have this thing, and the world will have moved on. I do not think that there's any wisdom at all in spending more than $250,000 on something that relies on fossil fuels.
What did you think about the electric, Ms. Davis?
I didn't hear you.
What were your thoughts on the electric?
I think that there may be other products that we could look at. Also, I really hate the idea of having to spend $500,000, but we've gone 2 years without a street sweeper. Is that correct? 3 years?
No, you've gone about 9 months maybe 10 months max.
Okay. I would rather, frankly, see us wait another year to buy something and see what else may be developing. I mean, electric vehicles are rapidly coming online. So a year from now, we may have something that we can afford that would be a much better option.
Do we think in a year's time there's going to be that much more electric technology for sweepers, for street sweepers, or do we think that the price is going to get cheaper in a year for the sweepers?
I can't predict that, but I also think that maybe we could talk the state into sweeping their own roads, because the majority of what we're going to be sweeping are state roads.
I'm perfectly fine with whatever the board chooses to do. I would just really, like a direction to go.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of the Timco 600 street sweeper from Amick Equipment as on this proposal that the city staff has provided us for the amount of $275,700. This is a street sweeper. I'm not in love with the thing, but it's a best management practice per the federal government and the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. It lowers our flood insurance for our CRS rating, and it's something that I think we need to do.
I can't predict that, but I also think that maybe we could talk the state into sweeping their own roads, because the majority of what we're going to be sweeping are state roads.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of the Timco 600 street sweeper from Amick Equipment as on this proposal that
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the purchase of the Timco 600.
John, what was the cost, did you say again? Thank you, sir.
At $270,000. Is there any further discussion? I mean, I understand everyone's point of view, the forward-looking electrical vehicle. 20 years from now, they won't be diesel. Maybe they'll be able to convert those in that regard. I don't know, Reverend Lowe Davis, but I understand your concern. Because trying to be environmentally sound is it's important. It is truly important. Any further discussion on the motion to purchase the Timco 600? All in favor? Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Vote is 5-1. Motion carried. We'll be purchasing the Timco 600, and thank you for the research that you've done on this, and we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of the environment, the Tree Preservation Ordinance Amendment. Southport celebrated Arbor Day April 29th, so trees are important to our city. So I will call on Development Services Specialist Thomas Lloyd to lead us in the discussion on this tree ordinance amendment. Mr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. It's going to be hard to follow that, but I'll do my best. So this is a zoning text amendment to our tree preservation section of the UDO, and this was submitted by Cameron Smith and Ginger Harper. And the reasoning behind this amendment is just because our current ordinance requires mitigation for all regulated trees. And this includes regulated trees that are within the utility, infrastructure, and drainage improvement areas of new development. And it can make it pretty difficult to actually meet that requirement just because we're making all these folks construct stormwater control measures. We're making them have 60-foot right-of-ways. We're requiring them to have all these things, to have, 5-foot sidewalks on each side of the street. So there's not really a whole lot of space for new development to put the adequate amount of mitigation that is required according to the current ordinance. So this applicant, they identified this in relation to a development that they're doing, but there's also been several members of the development industry that have kind of come together to work on this and to put this forward. Originally, it was just for all, to have protections only for regulated hardwoods greater than 12 inches. But during the Planning Board Review Committee of this, the Planning Board modified the language to make it to where regulated live oaks greater than 8 inches still have protections within these areas. So just to be completely clear, we're not taking away any protections from live oaks. The developer is still going to have to, design their development around live oaks, and if they do have to take a live oak down, if it's greater than 8 inches, they will have to mitigate that inch for inch. So the purpose behind that is to give them some flexibility when it comes to, designing their streets, designing their stormwater control measures, but to also, protect those live oaks, which is our, it's our heritage tree here in Southport. So if you look down at the actual language itself, it says, in their tree plan, they will have to show the impacts of utility, infrastructure, and drainage improvements. These improvements would still require mitigation for all regulated live oaks, 8 inches or greater in diameter. And then we also put another change in the ordinance for criteria for issuance of a tree impact permit. And the purpose was just to clarify a provision in the ordinance. And it's just saying that mitigation will not be required for trees that are dead, severely diseased, injured, or in danger of falling close to existing structures. And that's really all we have for this amendment. The same planning board work committee has been doing some additional improvements, including, crediting developers if they do save significant specimen live oak trees. But we're not quite where we need to be with that yet, but I do think we will be soon, so you'll see that coming up moving forward. But, the planning board found that this proposed text amendment is consistent with the Campbell Land Use Plan, and they recommend that the Board of Aldermen approve it. Just so y'all understand the process of a text amendment, there does have to be a public hearing, and the aldermen also have to adopt a statement of consistency and recommendation after that public hearing. And following that statement of consistency and recommendation, the aldermen can then hold a vote on whether to approve or deny the zoning text amendment. So I'm happy to answer any questions that there may be, and if there aren't any questions, I'm happy to hear the questions from the public in the public hearing.
Thomas, I am aware that the Forestry Committee provided advice to the Planning Board about this. Would you summarize what the Forestry Committee had to say?
So specifically, I did work on this in concert with our Forestry Committee Chair, Scott Lynn. I think everybody's pretty aware of Scott. Scott did come to all the review committee meetings, and he did keep the Forestry Committee in the loop during this process. One of his concerns is that if we were to require people to replant inch for inch, especially trees from these infrastructure areas, that we would have a overplanting problem in Southport. And the concern with that being is if you have so many small 3-inch trees that are planted right on top of each other, that's not going to be good for the overall health of the urban forests in the long run. So he thought, this was a very reasonable request, and that our ordinance is pretty stringent, as it is for single lots, and that, this would probably be in the best interest of the town. Because just an example, I don't know how many of you have been on 11th Street, on West 11th Street, but the Fisher's Landing town, or not the townhomes, but the single-family homes, they have they just planted, several nice oak trees, but the problem is those oak trees are pretty much right on top of each other. So we kind of want to get away from that moving forward so we don't have an overplanting problem with these trees.
Any other questions, comments? It was not listed on the agenda, so I don't know. Was the public hearing noticed? Okay. Mm-hmm. So then we can. I can go ahead and put us in the public hearing, and we will have any comments or questions from the public. So we're in public hearing right now concerning the tree ordinance amendment. The previous city attorney said I could just say that we're going into the public hearing without a motion, but that is a good question. Public hearing is open. Anyone like to make any comments? Anyone like to speak? Any questions? So now I will go ahead and close the public hearing aspect of our of the meeting in that regard concerning the tree ordinance amendment, and I will entertain a motion to approve.
We need a motion to adopt the consistency statement first.
In the past, we've done them at the same time, but I think either way.
Kind of thing. Some towns actually do it right after, but concurrent with it is certainly fine. And it's a good consistency statement if you agree with it. It certainly works here. No, it's in the packet, in the agenda packet that's been published.
I just wanted to ask Norwood about since it's okay that the public hearing wasn't on the agenda? Just a point of order.
It had been noticed, correct, in the newspaper?
It was noticed in the newspaper twice in between 10 and 25 days of this.
That's more of the requirement for us, the fact that we had, that it was on the agenda, just listed as an item for consideration is not a big issue. For those of you who want to follow along, it's page 87 of the agenda package is the consistency statement, if that is of interest to anyone.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the statement, consistency statement, and at the same time approve the ordinance as written here.
A motion to approve the consistency statement as well as the ordinance by Alderman Carroll and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Item H6 will be the Memorandum of Understanding with Up Your Arts, and we call on Bonnie Bray. Of note, Up Your Arts is sponsoring the plein air this weekend. I don't know how the weather will be, but I'll be there, and hopefully
It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful.
So thank you, Ms. Bray.
All right. Bonnie Bray, 515 Quartermaster Drive in Southport. On behalf of the Up Your Arts Board of Directors, I'm very excited to present this request for a third Memorandum of Understanding and to share these preliminary conceptual and floor plan drawings with you. Before we get to that, I want to talk about a couple of things, but I'll probably only be about 5 minutes prior to the question and answer period. I am a founding board member of Up Your Arts and its current treasurer. My husband, John Kiefer, is chair of the Arts Center Committee. So I have been living with this project almost day and night for the last 4 years, which is why I'm so excited we finally have something to show, because a lot of it has been, all the work has been, we've been working very hard, but it hasn't been visible above the surface. This is an important project because its completion will benefit Southport in so many ways. The building has occupied a prominent place in the city's community life as a center for municipal business for well over a century and a half. It is currently a highly visible anchor to our downtown streetscape, and it has the potential for providing sustainable economic development as similar centers have shown to do throughout North Carolina. We envision this as a vibrant community center for the arts, as a resource for nonprofit organizations, and for a place to conduct municipal business again. I'd like to review briefly the history of our relationship on this project with the city for the last 2.5 years. Phase 1 was a research and study period where we produced hired an engineer, did remediation studies to determine whether it was even a viable project. A feasibility report, well, and that was covered by the first MOU, which was presented in November 2019 and concluded in December 2020. about halfway through that period, Up Your Arts delivered a feasibility study to the Board of Aldermen. It was during COVID, so it wasn't presented, unlike, I have to make a correction with something I said in the MOU, something that's written in the MOU, and I'll talk with Norwood about that, point that out. But we did not present to the Board of Aldermen in July 2020, but we did deliver a feasibility study. And that feasibility study is on the Up Your Arts website, along with a number of other documents. It basically consisted of the engineering study and the remediation, the results of both studies. And the engineer found that the building is structurally sound, and in many ways it was a very viable project to pursue. So we moved on to the second MOU with the city, and that centered on the development aspects of the project itself. The first part of that was program and design, and that was the MOU, the second MOU plus an extension, which roughly went from December 2020 until May, now, this month. And now in order to move forward, we need to enter, the purpose for the third MOU is to enter into the organizational development phase, in which, as the text of the MOU indicates, we will complete architectural services, we will establish a board of trustees as the legal entity to take the project forward. Oops. And, hang on one second. Sorry. And then we will also identify specific funding mechanisms, funding sources, to take the project into pre-construction. The architectural services that will be completed during this third MOU period will deliver bid-ready documents so that it can then proceed into pre-construction, the pre-construction phase 3. After the pre-construction phase is completed, then phase 4 will be construction. We originally estimated that the construction, this is 2 years ago, we thought that the construction would be about $1.8 million, and costs, of course, have gone nowhere else but up since then. And this is a multi-year project. We're already 2.5 years into it, but it's got a lot of support, and it's been, a lot of input too from resident experts in various capacities to develop the drawings, the ideas for which we gave to the architect, who has now delivered conceptual site plan and floor plan drawings, which I'll show you with just a minute with one more statement. John and I have lived here almost 12 years. We found out early on that Southport honors its ties to the past. A recent experience managing the Open Doors project for the last year has only confirmed this truth. The Up Your Arts Board of Directors is proud to join forces with the city to breathe new life into this wonderful building so that it can contribute to the community life of future generations. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Elena is a good teacher. Okay. There are 3 drawings. They're pretty simple. This is after about a month's worth of work. I think we contracted with Lyle Architecture and Design month and a half ago, I guess. What David Lyle, the principal, is proposing is the front of the building, which is the farthest away there, will remain just as it is now. It'll look the same on Moore Street. The side that, is it, the Davis Street side will, right by that G on the bottom, right in front of it, that's where all the generators and electrical boxes are now. David is proposing that all of those be moved to the opposite side of the building so that we don't have to look at them and make it much more attractive. The other thing that's unique about this is the wings, of course, you recognize. The wing that's on Davis Street is the most visible. It's also very tall. It's I'm not sure what color the building will be, but I don't think it'll be yellow stucco. But what is there now is pretty much a monolith, just rises straight up. There are windows there. David is proposing adding very large windows there, and on the inside, that would be where the meet and greet cafe would be, so that people would, and I'll show you on the first floor plan, but people then would be able to look out onto Davis Street, and they would also be able to look in, and it would make the building come more alive. Directly above that, if anybody has seen this yet, he's proposing a roof deck. It's about 10 feet wide, 40 feet long, and it looks straight down Davis so that you will be able to see the Cape Fear River from the top of the roof. And it's with the kitchen and everything there, you'll be able to go up there, sit, eat, whatever you want to do. Well, when we get to the interior work, you'll see how he's proposing to do that. The back of the building, which now has the fire escape on it, he is proposing an addition, partly to change the look of it, partly to add a new entrance. So the building will effectively have two entrances, Moore Street and then back by the post office. The new entrance back in the back will have a covered driveway so that you can pull up if it's raining. You can pull up and discharge your passengers or pick up passengers, and they will go into an attractive entrance, and you can go park the car and walk through the rain with your umbrella. But it's and then the other purpose for the addition is to dig a basement so that we have more storage. One of the plans, in addition to the arts and the municipal business and the nonprofit resource center, is to be able to use the building for overflow for the community building, weddings, galas, live performances, art, theater, a whole variety of things. I don't know if we'll get back to, was it Hee Haw that used to be upstairs? And, who knows? I mean, we want to be prepared for everything. So the basement will provide a good place to have all that storage for the tables and chairs and various things that we would need. So the first floor, pretty much as I described, on the far end, again, is the front of the building on Moore Street. The staircase will stay, the staircase as it is now. The bathrooms will go away, and in the bathrooms place will be this resource center for nonprofit organizations that we're proposing, that really has been in the part of the proposal from the beginning. So many of the nonprofit organizations that operate in Southport have Southport volunteers, but their offices are farther away from where the volunteers live. So it would be a place that nonprofit organizations would share as a satellite office, kind of, and they would provide people to staff it, like like Franklin Square has docents, has the Associated Artists members act as, do time at the gallery to mind the store. The same thing could happen with nonprofit organizations. They would have a, copy machine, computers, mail drop, that kind of thing, and people could pick things up there. The management of the art center itself would have an office right across the hall to conduct business, and there will be a gift shop too. The area, of course, there's all the G's are artist studio space, which we've talked about for a while, and there are other small restrooms, that kind of thing. That H section in the middle is a flexible space to either do meetings or exhibitions. It would be a great place for a small chamber music performance. We're hoping to score a grand piano somewhere along the line, and the walls will be glass, so it won't feel closed in, and it'll be usable for a variety of different things. I is the kitchen. Everybody's eyes light up when we talk about putting in a culinary kitchen, or a full kitchen, because they think of culinary arts, and they also think of cooking classes. So with the, just outside the I section, J is the meet and greet cafe. So they'll be connected. The kitchen would be designed so that we could actually have cooking classes there, have it be filmed and that kind of thing. But it will be a full kitchen as opposed to just a catering kitchen. That little box N is a dumbwaiter, and that goes straight up to the second floor. And of course, the elevator is right around the corner, M. And that area there. Oh, actually, it's 100% handicap accessible. I forgot to mention that. The existing facade will have a circular ramp to get up those stairs, so they won't have to try to get up those stairs. And the back entrance has the same thing. One elevator and a dumbwaiter. Well, of course, the dumbwaiter can't work. But it'll, well, I'll show you. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, upstairs, it looks pretty much the same as it does right now. If anyone familiar with the building, there's a great big hall, 18-foot ceilings, chandeliers, tin roof. The tin roof can probably be saved. The acoustics aren't, well, the acoustics are good, but it's a big space, so there will have to be some other things up in the air to ameliorate or aid the acoustical properties. When you come up the stairs on the far end, you come into a big landing. There's a room right across the hall. It can be also a meet and greet place for weddings and events taking place in the hall. And then around the perimeter are a variety of meeting rooms, dressing rooms, a green room if you have a live music act or anything really where the performers need to hold back. The green room is for their comfort. And then you have the stairs to the roof deck. Can you tell what my favorite part is? Yeah. So that's kind of it. It's a conceptual site plan and floor plan. What we end up with, well, we will probably end up with something fairly quickly. What we're going to end up with in the architect's contract is broken up into 3 parts. The first part is the finish of this, and this is only a third of the way into it. When he finishes, we've actually contracted with him, so we're paying him currently. When we finish with this first third of his contract, or the only contract we've signed is for this part. When we finish this part, we will have renderings. It'll look as if it's not hand-drawn renderings. They'll be, real, not blueprints. We won't be at that stage yet, but it'll be things that you can really, put yourself into and see exactly what it's going to look like. So we have a ways to go before we get there, because now we have to have, public meetings and all that kind of thing to see how it's going to proceed, what exactly it's going to be. This is possibility. If it turns out that, there's a hue and cry, nobody wants a roof deck, it's a process, like this whole 2.5-year journey has been. But we at least now have something to show, and in relatively short order, once we can confirm, what the final plan is going to look like, we'll have something really fancy, snazzy drawings. And then he'll move on to well, there are 2 other stages. The final stage is the bid-ready construction drawings. Part of his process will be to determine, we haven't been able to find a plat, a recorded plat, a survey plat for the building, And so the architect is tasked with determining what exactly the survey boundaries are. What we found at the Register of Deeds is one of those, take this pipe to that stick, to this tree, to that chunk of brick. And so this part of the process. The other thing is construction, updated construction budget, and a lot more and then the schematic drawings. So we've got a little ways to go. We currently have about 90% of what we need to pay for the entire set of architectural services from this stage through to the construction bid drawings. So and we've already, there have been a lot of expenses along the way, the engineering study, the remediation. Twice we've entered the building with hazmat suits and paid for the privilege, but it's a pretty toxic environment now, and you can't go in without you shouldn't go in without a hazmat suit. So, but we've raised the money. We've raised the money through events and individual donations. The gala that we had last month after the door project was very successful, and it added a lot to this process. It's been a journey, and it's still continuing. So we hope that you all will, I can answer questions, of course, but we're presenting the MOU in the hope that we'll be able to enter the organizational development stage. This part that David has already done, we will see through to the end of this $11,000, this first part of his contract, because we're on the hook to him now, and the city will have something, or at least there will be something more than we've had for a very long time. But we hope we can keep on going. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Any questions for Ms. Bray?
Bonnie, could you go back to the first diagram, the one that you had the letter G on? It's one more there. And if I understood you, you're going to take G and put it on the other side of the building.
No, the electrical boxes are,
And where would they go? And isn't that the same location as at the 1840 Chapel of the Cross building, is that? So one of the most historic buildings we have in the city, you're going to put all the electrical boxes up against?
I don't know the exact location.
Okay.
Yeah, but no.
But could you look into that so we can figure out where that's going to be?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. My next question is, and I've looked at all these documents and I've sat in this room for a couple of years now, and I've asked a lot of questions, and I don't know what the end game is. I understand the timeline that you've talked about. I follow that part. But at the end, when this is all done, who owns the building?
We are looking to, if it is feasible for the city, to have the same relationship that it currently has with Franklin Square Gallery, with the jail, if I'm not mistaken, and with the state for the Maritime Museum building, which is leasing it for $1 a year. We would, just like with Franklin Square Gallery, the Board of Trustees for the Art Center would maintain the building, pay all the expenses, but and $1 a year for the city to continue to own the building.
There's no document between Up Your Arts and the city on that regard, is there?
No, no, and it would be with the Board of Trustees.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is before you spend $2 million in the fiscal environment that we're in, in a building that's on downtown Southport with a water view, which is worth a lot of money, what does the citizens want us to do with that building? And I'd rather have us have that open, fair discussion now before you spend a whole lot of money doing something. Because this has been going on for 2.5 years, and as I read each MOU, there's never an end game discussed. And I applaud you for telling me what the end game is. But now we have to have some kind of discussion about, is that the best use of that building given the circumstances. I'm not suggesting for a minute, Bonnie, that I'm against this program. Don't read me the wrong way. All I'm suggesting is that building is worth millions of dollars. And are we giving it to Up Your Arts, basically, for $1 a year? If that's what everybody wants us to do, I'm for it. But we have to have that open discussion.
Yeah, I agree. That's one way to look at it. And then there are lots of intrinsic, there's very equal intrinsic value.
All of that stuff plays a part in this. And I suspect that the majority of people will be in favor of this. But I think we have to have those kind of meetings somewhere along the line before Up Your Arts spends any more time and energy and money to go forward. That's my suggestion.
I agree. I mean, this has always been, I know this,
I mean, the plan looks wonderful. I like the plan.
Cool.
I'm not happy about your mechanical box, but we can talk about that another day.
All right.
But this is big money for this town, and we should have some kind of agreement with you.
Well, exactly. Let me maybe fill in a couple of, not that you have misconceptions, but maybe because of this discussion, other people might. The phase after this one, when we get to the point of pre-construction, we will have a board of trustees in place. That will be the legal entity that negotiates with the city. That will be the legal entity that runs the art center. The art center, just shorthand. There's many things, including art. That will be the legal entity that secures the funding. Up Your Arts will not be that legal entity. It will be a separate board of trustees, and Up Your Arts will go about its business. Our role is simply to spearhead and to manage this beginning process. The pre-construction, as we said.
Are you envisioning that board to be in place within the next 6 months?
No, not within the, well, if it can be, yes, but not likely. But it has to be in place before we can anything can proceed to pre-construction, because this is, you don't go constructing on a city building without an agreement, but it will be a separate board of trustees. What was I going to say? There's a lot that needs to happen between now and then. And this MOU.
I look forward to those discussions. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I'd like, Rich, probably before you moved to Southport, that we had public meetings about the building, if you'll recall.
Right.
And some of this language and this energy and synergy came out of those discussions. It was discussions of whether we kept the building, whether we sold it off, whether we did. So there was actually a public meeting around all that, which now for the life.
But there's no document.
No, because this has all been about feasibility, and please, Bonnie, if I misspeak, correct me. But as my understanding, this group of citizens got together, and so far, everything they're doing is feasibility and design and the feasibility of design, and there has not been a hard decision made about anything, and certainly would be public meetings about that sort of thing. But also, it has my understanding from the beginning of this feasibility study that the chamber upstairs, which is on the second floor, I had the good fortune when I was on the planning board, we used to meet there. And so it's going to stay that such that we then will re-access it as chambers for the city, or alderman meetings and that sort of thing. That was part of the original discussion of this.
And I've heard that, but when I went to look to see for documents, and that may be the greatest selling point, because certainly you and I both know we have no space. So that may be the great.
Well, so it'll be a joint civic and private partnership is in essence what this is. are nonprofit and civic. The city somehow will also have roles. Who knows what that is right now? Because I think they've got to see how it's going to progress. But what they're doing is feasibility, so I think that's a good
No,
thing.
I'm all for the fact that you're doing the feasibility study and seeing what this will look at. But at some point, we actually have to put pen to paper. Yep.
Right. I want to recognize with gratitude the commitment and the work Up Your Arts board members and volunteers have dedicated to helping our make our community a better place. I know tonight we're talking about a continued relationship between Up Your Arts and the city for the old courthouse and our old city hall. However, Up Your Arts has been so much more in this community. They've been promoting arts with festivals like Plein Air, attracting artists from around the state, concerts, music tour of homes, sponsoring a regular open mic night Thursdays at American Fish, the Amazing Door Project. And this year, Up Your Arts, as a participating member of the 4th of July Committee, is coordinating 30 performance acts to provide free live music at venues in Southport and Oak Island during the 4th of July celebration this year. So not only do these events that they've been doing provide our community with entertainment, it helps our local musicians and artists grow their audience and their craft. And so back with the MOU as a nonprofit, I think Bonnie mentioned that they had raised 90% of what they need to complete the phase 2 portion of the architectural services, right? And Up Your Arts has worked to keep this project moving forward. And I would like to make a motion to have the city attorney review the memorandum of understanding and bring it to the board for consideration at the June 9th meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. City Attorney, your name was mentioned. Is that, I'd like to have your opinion.
I was going to tell you, I mean, looking at a short memorandum of understanding like this, if you want to turn to page 97 in the agenda packet, that's where the basically each side's responsibilities are. It proposes that either side can get out after 60 days, but essentially the town, the city would allow Up Your Arts access to the property, and the city agrees to maintain insurance on it and keep the utilities turned on, and maintain the exterior of it. And Up Your Arts, on the other hand, proposes that they'll proceed with what you're doing right now. So we're not, and I'll discuss this further next month, but it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of concrete obligations on either side from this. It's an agreement to agree in the future, but does allow you, the organization, continued access to the building, so they're not trespassers. So, and that's the main moving part to it. Hope that was helpful.
Thank you. Any questions for the city attorney on that? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Are we able to, we cannot adopt it tonight, or we just, a motion is to have it on the agenda for next month?
Yes, sir.
Once the city attorney has reviewed it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that motion in mind, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Right, and of course, Robert Carroll did not vote. Alderman Carroll did not vote. Okay. Item H7, Seabiscuit Wildlife Shelter donation. More controversy.
No.
Thank you, Alderman Carroll. I would like to read an email, and this came about because I attended, and of course wanted to attend Nature Fest, and Mary Ellen Rogers was there, and she came over and spoke to me. So she said the Nature Fest this past weekend gave me the opportunity to speak with you, meaning me, in person and to review what we at Seabiscuit Wildlife Shelter do to rescue, rehabilitate, and release the wild birds of this area. Seabiscuit has operated in Oak Island since 2008 in the first floor of my home and in my backyard. Even with the cramped quarters, we were able to take in 728 birds in 2022. Each year, the number of birds increases due in part to the outreach programs we do every year to help educate the public about our birds and what they can do when they see a bird that needs our help. We have a long-range plan to move to an area beside Bill Smith Park next to the dog park. Well, that should work out well. This land is completely undeveloped and requires fire protection, all utilities, construction of a new building to care for the birds, with an area to present programs to the public. Working with Buff Builders, we hope to get underway as soon as the fire and sewer/septic tank issues are resolved. Each year, the town of Oak Island has donated money through their grant process. We received $3,000 last year and applied for the same amount this year. Of the 728 birds in 2022, 30% came from Oak Island and 11% came from Southport. Based on this, we would like to request $1,000 from Southport through whatever grant program you have available so that we can make an application. Southport and Oak Island are very beautiful and special places that bring visitors to enjoy the natural coastal environment. These visitors and locals have continued to support SBWS, over the years. We hope that it will be possible to have Southport be one of those contributors that believes in our mission. Mary Ellen Rogers, Director, Seabiscuit Wildlife Shelter. So I will leave it to the aldermen, y'all the ones that vote on items like this and all other items. If there's any discussion about it first, and then if anyone would like to make a motion. And I'm assuming no one has any financial interest in the wildlife.
Seabiscuit. I would like to just say a few things. One, I had the opportunity to speak with our animal welfare officer. So I will tell you that we use this service when we have birds that are damaged, that have issues and have been injured. Our animal welfare officer takes those birds to Seabiscuit for rehab or to whatever needs to happen. So that we are also a bird sanctuary city. I did have, as far as where does the money come from, she has it, Kate has the money in her budget to fund this $1,000 donation. She actually was thinking about doing something similar to this before we received this formally, because it's not just a donation to a nonprofit. This is a donation to a nonprofit that does something for us, for our community. So I would like to make a motion that we donate $1,000 to Seabiscuit Wildlife Shelter.
There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem to donate $1,000 to the Seabiscuit Wildlife Shelter, and a second by Robert Carroll. Any further discussion?
I just want to say that I actually got to use Seabiscuit where we rescued a very injured pelican, and they were very excellent at the whole thing. It actually happened in the landing.
Yes, they are, and yes, many calls, and she's right there, and I appreciate the discussion and the motion and the second, because I told her Southport would be happy to do this at Nature Fest. So as long as I get three aldermen, I'll break the tie. So all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. That's wonderful. It's a great thing that we're going to do. Thank you, and I appreciate that. I don't know if the next one will go as well, but we'll try. Consideration of the street name change, and this is something that Ginger Harper had mentioned to me a couple years ago, that Ms. Harper had asked. And so I just read the memorandum that I sent out. It's very short. I said, Madam Clerk, please forward this memorandum to the Board of Aldermen concerning the request for the name revision of the alley, I Am Street, located between Moore and East Bay Street, the entrance of which is adjacent to the Stateport Pilot Building. I Am Street is parallel to South Howe Street and is a one-way alley from Moore Street to East Bay Street at Waterfront Park. With respect to item HA on the Board of Aldermen agenda May 12, 2022, I would like to add more background information. In a conversation with Ginger Harper, the widow of Stateport Pilot photojournalist Jimmy Harper and daughter-in-law of Margaret T. Harper, it was mentioned to me that Ms. Harper never liked the name I Am Street. And Ginger asked me if it was possible to change the name to Harper Lane. So of course I said, sure, I'd be happy to do it. Just like I said, I'd be happy to donate $1,000. So in researching this request with city staff, it was noted that on a 2017 survey map of I Am Street, it is labeled as a gravel drive. On a Powell Bill street map, I Am Street is an unclaimed municipal street. This street is more like an alley/drive than a city street and has decorative oyster shells in the paving. The Harper family at one point in time owned the majority of the land that borders I Am Street. The Stateport Pilot Building is located on the north end of I Am Street, owned by Morgan Harper, the granddaughter of Margaret Harper and the daughter of the late editor Ed Harper. The south end of the alley is the location of the Harper home, now owned by Ginger Harper. The name change would only affect the southern aspect of I Am Street, which is surrounded by Harper family homes, buildings, and Harper family heritage, the Stateport Pilot, and Harper family memories. The name I Am would still be included in the revision of the street name, and the name change would be I Am Harper Lane at my suggestion. This would not diminish Lord How Dry I Am Streets, but would promote the history of Southport and would please a matriarch of our great city. For those who did not recognize the subtlety of the name change, it is a wonderful literary reference to Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, whose biography is I Am Scout. Thus, I Am Harper Lane. There are not the so subtle contributions to our city, including most recently Taylor Field from the Margaret Taylor Harper family through Ginger and Jimmy Harper. It is an honor for me to mayors to promote this name change and be a part of the dedication when the new signage one day hopefully is revealed. I ask that the Board of Aldermen consider the name change in honor of and at the request of the Harper family and their continued contributions to the city. And what, of course I didn't do this, but my assistant did this. What I was trying to do is not really change I Am Street, but to add Harper Lane to this, and in the same signage that we have there already. So it would be honoring the history and the heritage, but it would not be intrusive in changing the way it looked. So I'm happy to entertain discussion on this. I know there's an alternative signage, and I certainly think that should be looked at also. You have that in front of you as well. Of course, am biased, but that's okay. But anyway, I will entertain discussion on I Am Harper Lane. What we did, we compromised because we didn't want to lose the historic aspect. So by adding Harper Lane in the literary aspect of it and the poetic aspect of it, she likes it.
I Am Street is part of the historical folklore of Southport. it's two narrow blocks running through our central business district and it was named I Am Street in the 50s as much as I can research. Perhaps it's a few years older than the city dock and the Yacht Basin. So I'm not sure what factors how we define our historic character. It's a place, it's a structure, it's an artifact, it's a person, or all of the above for sure. And to say that the generational generosity of the Harper family has been important to our community is very much an understatement. The Harpers have made many things possible, like the library, Waterfront Park, Taylor Field Park that the mayor mentioned. The Stateport Pilot continues to be a gift every week, something special and rare for a town our size. But I would ask that we consider not changing the name of the street, and rather consider adding an historic honorarium marker above the I Am Street signs at the corners of Moore, next to the Pilot Building and the corner of Bay Street. This could preserve our historic character by maintaining the street name dedicated 70 years ago, and add another layer of history by adding a marker recognizing honorary Harper Lane above it, just in this format. But having said all that, what I would ask is that perhaps, because this to me, whatever path we go will be setting a precedent for how we move forward. And I like this honorary marker type thing, because we are a historic community and we may want to do things like that in the future, especially once we codify a local historic commission. So I'd like us to give it more thought, I think. And if we could table this, that would be my preference.
I would agree with that, of the tabling it. I'm struggling to figure out what the criteria would be, because there's a lot of old families around here. They may not have given as much as the Harpers, but they've given something to the city. And is every street going to be changed? Are we changing the names of every street? And then the next board, 4 years from now, changes the names again? What's the process for doing that? And to put it in perspective, 4 years ago, I led an effort to change the name of the only on-the-water program for kids in all of Brunswick County to the Ed Harper Memorial Regatta. So I'm certainly very aware of what the Harpers have done. I'd be more happy to actually put the Harper name on City Hall as opposed to changing streets, because it doesn't have a name.
Not have any historical significance because they didn't live there. I'm not trying to change the name, and I don't think Ginger was either per se. I think we were just trying to add something to that. So we have a motion to table this, and do we have a second? Motion by Mayor Tim and
Was that a motion?
Rich. Yeah, I think she made a motion to.
Yeah, she made a motion.
And who would like to second it? Rich?
I'll second it, or
Okay.
Lowe can second it.
Any further discussion? Okay. Show of hands, all in favor? You can raise them up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, unanimous, good. Motion carried unanimously. We will table this for a further discussion. So thank you. Next up, our committee reports. I will start with, you have some reports minutes in your packet, and we'll start with Alderman Allen.
Just real quickly, just to not state the obvious, but the planning board is working very hard on the review of Indigo. The committees are meeting. Mayor Pro Tem and I have been attending all of those, and I think they're making good progress. I'd continue to urge citizens to submit their questions and concerns through the city's website to the planning board, and remind everyone there will be there is no public comment at those committee meetings, but there will be plenty of opportunities for public comment moving forward. And of course, you can always have personal public comments with any of us or members of the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've said it before, and I will say it again, that we will have a town hall special board of aldermen meeting with the board on Indigo once the planning board has made their recommendations. So there will be, as Alderman Allen says, there will be ample time and opportunities for public comment. Alderman Carroll.
The 4th of July committee met this Tuesday, and what I'd like to do is just recognize Randy and everyone there. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of work to create the several days of events that take place both here in Southport and in Oak Island, and it's coming back. We're going to finally have it after 2 years, and it's going to be amazing. So I'm looking forward to it, and yeah.
Thank you. Yes, July 4th is coming back, and to have Randy as the chairman is just it's poetic and fantastic to have a Southport native do that. Alderman Auld.
Sunny Point is still there. We're still getting electricity, and I'm giddy about the 4th of July parade, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis.
I wore mine out. Okay. At Arbor Day, well, actually, we were part of the Arbor Day celebration, but we presented for the first time something that the Forestry Committee worked on very hard for about a year, which is a walking tour of Southport's trees. This is what it looks like. You pick up this and it guides you through primarily the historic district where all the beautiful trees are, and there's a lot of information about this tree, its history, and so on. And I must recognize Alana Dial. She is the one who actually did the graphics of this, and it is really impressive. You can get these at the Visitors Center and at the Maritime Museum. There is a QR code that you can, on the pamphlet, that you can use so that it's online as you walk along. You don't just have to stumble along trying to read and look at the same time. So this is impressive. I have 3 copies here, and anybody's welcome to pick one up as you go out. And the other thing is, we celebrated this year the 18th year that Southport is a Tree USA city. We're only one of 81 cities in North Carolina, and this is a tremendous effort, and it is an honor to be. And one of the requirements is that we have a committee or a board dedicated to tree preservation and protection, and which is what the Forestry Committee is, and that we have a tree protection and preservation ordinance. Just tonight, we passed an amendment to this one and the result of that will be that our live oaks, our beautiful regulated trees will be more protected. We are looking for more members. I hope somebody will be interested in joining this committee. I promise you, you don't have to dig deep holes and plant trees. The Public Works Department does that. That's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardi.
Yes, reporting for the Beautification Committee. We had 24 volunteers this past cleanup, which enabled us to weed, mulch, plant 3 different major areas in the city. We removed failing plants at the Moore Street roundabout, relocated some rose bushes, weeded and mulched. Any future plantings will be native in nature in all areas and will not require constant watering. That's our goal. A group started installing the memorial bricks placed in the sidewalks at the Garrison Lawn also on that day. We will continue until completed. A thank you to Public Works for their assistance. For the Board of Adjustments, we will interview our last applicant for an ETJ position on the board, which will complete the membership for the first time in a long time. Thank you to all who have applied. We will also have an educational meeting helping us all to make the right decisions in all cases that come before us. That's it.
Very good, thank you. Beautification does a wonderful job, so we appreciate all that you do with that, Mr. Lombardi, and the Forestry Committee and the tour. Alderman Davis, that was a fantastic day, fantastic Arbor Day ceremony, so thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on what John said, just a reminder, the Planning Board will meet at its regularly scheduled time next Thursday, 6 p.m. here in the Community Building. Everyone, of course, is always invited to attend, and there is a public comment period always at the regular meeting. The Parks and Recreation Committee, earlier this week, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board met with our consultant, Dr. Herstein, to finalize the citizen survey that, along with focus groups, will be the basis for much of the updates to the Parks and Recreation and Open Space Master Plan. The survey will be available beginning May 23rd on the city website and will run through June 30th. In addition to being able to access the survey online, on the city website, citizens will be able to pick up a hard copy of the survey at City Hall or the Parks and Recreation Department office beside the gym on Atlantic Avenue. On May 26th from 3 to 7, and June 7th from 11 to 7, and June 15th from 11 to 7, at the Indian Trail Meeting Hall, there will be public workshops to gather citizen input on the Parks and Recreation and Open Space Master Plan. These workshops will provide opportunities for citizens to be actively involved. Our Parks and Recs Director, Heather Hemphill, always asks me to please emphasize that the importance of completing the survey and participating in these public workshops. We will also, these will be noticed meetings, and you'll see advertising for this, but if you want to go ahead and mark your calendars, again, that was May 26th, June 7th, and June 15th. Citizen input will drive the success and outcome of this process and the planning goals for Southport's updated 2023 to 2028 Parks and Recreation and Open Space Master Plan. As a reminder, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board regular meeting is scheduled each month on the second Tuesday at 6:30 at the Indian Trail Meeting Hall, and again, the public is invited.
Thank you. As always, a great report. Item J, Manager's Report. Mr. Hargrove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can all tell, House Street repaving is almost complete. We still have to go in and raise the level of the manholes to be even with the road and the sewer services or the lateral services. Bay Street is scheduled to begin for resurfacing the beginning of June. I know you are all aware that staff has been very busy submitting the ARPA or ARPA grants to the state to qualify for that grant money. We have submitted those and they were on time. Our ARP, which is the American Rescue Plan compliance report that was required by the federal government, was completed and submitted on time. City staff is still fine-tuning the budget based on guidelines from the Board of Aldermen. We're really busy at City Hall, but got a lot on our plate, but we're getting it done. Thank you to the city staff. Thank you to the Board of Aldermen and the mayor for their support.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrove, and thank you for all that you and your staff are doing. Especially, we've had a busy week, so thank you. Item K, mayor's comments. You can find all the comments you want, of course, the city newsletter. I've written 2 mayor updates, so I'll be brief, but you can find information there. Concerning the budget workshops, I want to thank the city manager, Mr. Hargrove, the city finance director, Melanie Trexler, all the department heads, and our Board of Aldermen for their diligence in working through this budget process. It was an excellent workshop. The budget is based on principles, strategic, it's prioritized, has a vision for the future as well as immediate needs. We must remember Southport is the downtown for Brunswick County and a tourist destination, so the budget in part reflects this. Blood drive, I would like to mention again, Red Cross, our Southport Fire Department, EMS Division, Monday, May 23rd, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the downtown substation, 111 East Nash Street. You've had your fried catfish, so your red blood cells are built up and you're ready to donate. So let's get down there. Big achievement, House Street, and then on to Bay Street. Baptist Church, 150th anniversary. Congratulations to Pastor Varnum and the Southport Baptist Church. Blessings. We had National Day of Prayer, sponsored by Sheriff Ingram. I attended it with Chief Coring. It was a wonderful and very spiritual event and well attended. So we prayed for Southport on that day and every day. Be vigilant. The pandemic continues. Cases are increasing, but fortunately hospitalizations are not. So take your best shot. And lastly, best wishes. I hope you've noticed the alliteration. Thank you. I know you would get that. Thank you, dear. Best wishes to all the graduates from kindergarten to high school to college. And I send best wishes to those who are having reunions, who've graduated in the past, and in particular the Notre Dame class of 1977. It's our 45th. To the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill School of Medicine, class of 1982, our 40th. And to the UNC School of Public Health, class of 1992, our 30th. So I'm with all of you in spirit and embrace the heartfelt memories of those youthful days with all of you at those schools and the excitement and joy of college life. So congratulations to all of you who are graduating and those who are having reunions. And we'll move on next to item L, staff reports. They're in your packet, so you can read those, and I'm sure you've already read them. So item M will be board comments. Alderman Allen.
None at this time, thank you.
Alderman Carroll.
I'd like to just mention that I had a really great time at the budget workshop Monday and Tuesday. That was a lot of fun. No, it was really good to see where we are going. I think that this board is making decisions today that are going to shape Southport's future. And some of it's not that easy. Some of it's, makes the front page of the paper, but it's the right thing to do. And so I'm excited about Southport's future.
Thank you. Alderman Alt.
I'm just going to echo what Robert said, and that is the workshop was very informative. It answered a lot of questions. It made a lot of questions, and we're working forward through all of those, and I enjoy working with the staff. Thank you.
Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis.
Thank you. I want to thank the Public Works Director, Tom Stanley, for being into other street sweepers, and I appreciate my fellow aldermen being willing to reconsider and hear me out on this topic. I wish I could have persuaded you otherwise. I also appreciate your consideration about the pest control. I probably will have a whole lot more to say about that as we go along. You can count on that, in fact. But thank you very much for hearing that out.
You and we appreciate the discussion, so thank you, Alderman Davis. Alderman Lombardi.
Yes, as like the rest of the staff, I was very pleased during the board's recent budget meetings. We have addressed the important issues facing the city and are headed in the right direction for the future and well-being for all. I must also thank all of our volunteers for their constant efforts in helping Southport to continue to be the place that they want to be for the rest of their lives. I urge all who are thinking of getting involved to come to Rhett Street first Saturday of every month at the old jail, the annex next to the old jail, and experience the satisfaction of volunteering for a great cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller.
Thank you, Mayor. I too appreciated the budget process, and staff did an incredible yeoman's amount of work. So we're all appreciative for that. I want to now get a little bit lighter. Is Saturday, May 14th from 9 to noon this coming Saturday, because it is Pet Vaccination Month. Our very own Kate Marshall, our animal welfare officer, is partnering, having her Southport Animal Protective Services partner with Petco Love, give pets their best shot for a healthy life to family pets in need during a free vaccination clinic. And so that's this Saturday at River Road Animal Hospital, which is 8593 River Road, Southport, that everybody knows. So the clinic is from 9 to noon. There will be 300 free vaccinations, 150 dog vaccinations, 150 cat vaccinations. River Road Animal Hospital, who are doing an amazing job in our community, are donating 300 free rabies vaccines. So that's quite the ability for individuals to bring their puppies or kittens or dogs, family pets that in need, and come to the clinic. The City of Southport Animal Protective Services will also be providing 150 free microchips. So that's another important thing, and this was grant funded through Kate acquired grants from Petco for this. So anyway, again, that's this Saturday, 9 to 12 at River Road Animal Hospital. And then finally, my last comment is this is the last time I'll be saying this year. The June 1, 2022 deadline to take advantage of the North Carolina Homestead Act Property Tax Relief Program in the 2022 tax year is in 2 weeks. So you have to apply by June 1 to participate in this program. This is a good program. If you or anyone you know is 65 years or older, owns their own home, and it's their permanent residence, and their 2021 household income was less than $31,900, they can file an application to reduce their property tax by 50%. This will reduce both the 2022 county and city property taxes by 50%. It will also reduces fire fees and the hospital tax. It also cuts that in half. Also, for those who qualify, there are 2 other tax relief programs available: an exemption for disabled veterans and a tax deferment program for higher income people that don't qualify for the $31,900. So the Brunswick County Tax Office can help facilitate the application process over the phone. Call the general number 910-253-2803 and mention the tax relief program, and they will route you to the tax department to help fill out that through the application process. Or you can simply call our City Hall, Southport City Hall, and ask for Deputy City Clerk Tanya Shannon right here in Southport, and she will help you access that information. Please, anyone you know, please get the word out. This is a state fund, or not fund, but it's a state. You can take advantage of it in North Carolina. Let me rephrase that anyway. It is a simple process if you qualify. So please, I hope everybody will take advantage of that can.
Thank you. Great comments. So we've had an excellent meeting. I know it's been long, but we've covered a lot of topics. And I appreciate the board and their cooperation, and city manager, city staff, everyone who's here that stuck it through tonight. Madam Clerk, thank you. Randy, thank you. Elena, Kate, appreciate that. Tom Stanley, thank you, sir. I know it's a lot of work. Heather, thank you. Battalion Chief, thank you for being here. Chief Goring. I'm going to go home and toast Mrs. Harper and Harper Lee, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.